You know how cute I always thought you were.
You go to bed.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me?
I'm talking to you. It's a school night. Summer is over. Get to bed.
Well, then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here.
Because you got to get up in the morning and get on that bus and do that thing. It is back to school on Desert Island Institute of Films.
Oh, back to school, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool. I got my lunch packed up, my boots tied tight. I hope I don't get in a fight. Oh, back to school.
Who are you?
I am Ron Burgundy? I'm Diet Dr. Paul.
I am Paul. All right, and we are...
I'm nobody. I'm a tramp, a bum, a hobo. I'm a boxcar and a jug of wine. And a straight razor if you get too close to me.
Please forgive him.
Yeah, I speak out of turn a lot.
Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for coming to our show. We know there's a ton of competition that's out there. We hope that you stick around. We hope you go back and watch the first episode and sort of figure out, we're just talking about movies, and we hope ultimately that you find something, some movie you've never heard of. And I'm looking at my list today and I'm thinking there's probably going to be at least one or maybe two films that you've never seen before.
Blind people go to the movies all the time. We just listen. I might be blind, but my brain has been trained to listen to any movie and know exactly what's happening on screen. Like, I love Titanic.
I'm the king of the world! Woo, woo, woo! Woo!
Because ultimately, if you love movies, you're always looking for that next one. I never heard of that, never seen it. I hate going to the movies and being disappointed. And more often than not, when I go to the movies, I get disappointed. Because it's the same thing. I've seen it 100 times before. It's just different actors kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for something new, that new high.
Can I tell you a secret?
Sure, man.
I see dead people.
Man, this shit is awesome.
Yo, son, you gotta roll some more of that outside.
You know,
Something good.
the first taste is free. So what's this episode about,
This
you might ask?
episode is back to school. So movies that have to do with school in some aspect or another.
Or other.
Or other.
Hence...
So not school.
hence
So it has to do with school. Doesn't have anything to do with school. That's how it has to do with school.
So I'm expecting that you're going to come up with 7 movies that have nothing to do with school, but you were at school and you thought about how you would much rather be home watching them.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
That's true. That's a good way to tie these things together. Yeah. I will say this, is that when I was getting ready to do this list, I thought there's some real easy picks here.
Yeah.
And then when I got done doing my list, I realized I didn't have any of them. And I didn't do that on purpose. It organically happened, so sorry.
Yep. Well, I don't know what you're going to pick, and you don't know what I'm going to pick. And we tend not to want to recycle, because there are certain movies that, like, you know, if it's about football and it came out during the 70s, then we don't want to include it on the best 70s movies and best football movies. But so we do sort of mix that up a little bit. But
yeah, so if there's something that was going to be on this list that I've used recently or talked about it ad nauseum recently, that I would have automatically pulled it off. Now, a year from now, if that changes, then maybe I would introduce it again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
how many of the 7 do you think we're going to overlap?
maybe 2. Now, I don't know specifically what 2 they are, but I feel like there's a lot of like easy stuff here, so it should happen just by.
It's a common theme.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and why do you think that is? Why do you think that
it's
that
relatable? Yeah, it's relatable.
And it's certainly to a youth audience who, you know.
Yeah, and you get them young.
My
My goodness, I feel like I'm gonna pinch myself to see if I'm dreaming. Hot dog, it's real.
And I think every generation sort of has their series or movies that came out, you know? And so for me, it would have been like the American Pie movies and stuff like that.
I would have thought you would have said Pretty in Pink.
It was the year I was born. That was the year I was born.
I know, but it's near and dear to your heart.
You mention that movie more than I have.
I don't know that I've ever seen it.
You mention it way more than I do.
I'm projecting onto you.
Yeah, projecting. Oh.
Okay, so who wants to go first?
I'll go number first.
Okay.
I'll go number first. I'm good at book learning. All right, what's a good segue anyway, because my number 7 is American Pie. And now, when these movies came out originally, they weren't anything special to people. They were what you expected to get from it. But I think now that I'm older and they've sort of grown up with this cast of characters, and they've had like American Pie 2 and then American Wedding and American Reunion, and they're actually kind of good movies. Maybe the second American Pie movie is not very good, but it was like, there's some charm to them. And now that you're older and you've sort of like, you can look back on that more fondly now, it's definitely my generation's sort of cornerstone into all that. So
I would put American Pie would be the equivalent to my generation's Porkies.
yes, yes.
And there is a time where I think when you're young, and especially as a young male, and maybe young females, I don't know, but you go to the movies hoping to see
a glimpse of something.
Yes, and whether it's toplessness or whatever, and that was really big. In back in the 70s, growing up, you had movies like The Stewardesses or the Dallas, the cheerleaders. It wasn't Dallas Cheerleaders, it was the cheerleaders, and they were sex comedies. And Porkies was that, where it was really just sort of, and they were very randy. And I don't remember if American Pie had nudity, and I remember you always think about the pie scene.
It did, but yeah, it wasn't as big a part of it as that you'd think about it in retrospect. But yeah, the pie scene is hysterical.
Yeah,
Eugene Levy, I think, is one of the things that makes it a funny movie, is the relationship between him and the dad, and it's why I think that the later movies score so well in comparison to the earlier ones, is because it is more about Jim and his relationship as a young father and husband, rather than them as the kids. Oh yeah, the first movie, we gotta get laid, bro. It's not all just about that on the surface level. There is a good, charming story in there, and
yeah.
While on the surface level it is very juvenile, it's a good movie.
My number 1, or number 7, is a little bit more serious kind of stuff.
Doesn't take much.
Huh?
Doesn't take much
No,
to be
it
more
doesn't.
serious than that movie.
I don't remember there being any nudity in this at all, but it's With Honors.
Never heard of it.
Probably never even heard of it.
Nope.
You like Joe Pesci?
He's all right.
You like Brandon Fraser?
He's all right.
Yeah.
Never heard of Brandon Fraser. Who's that?
We just talked
I
about
know,
him.
I gotcha.
This is here's the beauty of this. I saw this movie, I know, once, maybe twice. I really want to see it again, but it's hard to find. And it's a story, it's Harvard, and this is a college student, and he loses, I forget how it happens, but he has like this important theme paper, and he loses it, and Joe Pesci finds it. And Joe Pesci is a homeless guy. And so Joe Pesci trades him. It's like, okay, I'm gonna stay in your dorm kind of stuff, that kind of stuff, and every night that you do, then I'll give you a page of your thesis back kind of stuff. And it is, you have a lot of other of these teen actors or young adult actors around the same age as Brendan Fraser. I don't know, I can't remember but it's all about sort of this culture of living in a dorm. And it's a beautiful title for a film, With Honors, because Joe Pesci's character is clearly sick and like to the point of death. And it's sort of how these young college students learn about what's really important in life. And it really is. And so, the notion of graduating with honor, what is honor? And so it's a beautiful film from that standpoint. It's very uplifting. Joe Pesci is always great, and it was really kind of a great sort of, this was during the time period when Brendan Fraser was just everywhere, kind of stuff. But it's really, it's school, but it's more at the college level.
No, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's good. You love it. Here's, okay, because we need a special alarm or a bell or something. This is to, turn you on kind of thing. This is a gem, a jewel, something that you might never have heard. If you find it, please help me find it. I don't have it on video, and
Finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
Yeah, I would watch it right now.
I would hope that if you did find it, you would do everything in your power to never let him watch it again.
You're killing me, son. You're killing me.
That's the idea.
And I've been sick lately too.
That's the idea. All right. Number 6. 10 things I hate about you. Familiar with it?
Yep.
Yep. So it's a Taming of the Shrew, I believe, by William Shakespeare. A good little ditty.
About Jack and Diane, 2 American kids growing up in the heartland.
It's got a young Heath Ledger in it. It's got a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it. So some high acting in there. But very, I think for my age, and especially like if you were to ask Bray, this is one of her like go-to teeny bopper movies. But I also think that there's some heart and soul in this one too. And those are the ones that I think are rewatchable. Is you do have the silly, funny high school antics of it, but you also have some life lessons in there too, considering usually the target audience. But a good movie nonetheless. I forget the guy in it. There's the guy that plays the butthole in it, and he was like in every single 90s teen movie as the butthole, all over like Teen and Tiger Beat. But he was, I hated him in that movie.
Certainly a reflection of your cohort, your age thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have, I think I saw it. I mean, I know I saw it one time, so it didn't have the, Perks of Being a Wallflower is another sort of that kind of, that you, from your time period, but good. My number 6, Alan Parker's Fame.
I know the name of that movie, but I don't know anything about it.
Well, it is...
Not a very famous movie.
It's famous enough that they brought it back as a TV series. It is the story of the School of Performing Arts in New York. And it is a group of various young people all brought together, and it sort of shows them from, you have to audition to get into the School of Performing Arts. And it can be acting, it can be vocal music, it can be dance, it can be theater, instrumental kind of stuff. And so it shows you their auditions, and then their freshman, senior, all the way until they graduate, culminating in their big concert. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful movie that sort of shows young people and how they form cliques together. It's beautiful because from the standpoint of when you go to school and you say, well, I want to do this, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to do that, I want to be an actor. And some of those hopes get crushed along the way. I will tell you, I saw this, I was living in LA at the time. I saw it, and this has happened to me several times where I saw a movie and I left the theater and I immediately drove to purchase the soundtrack. And that happened with Fame, and it happened with another film directed by Alan Parker called Midnight Express. And
oh, so he directed that too?
He did.
Love that movie.
And I did the same thing. Went and purchased the soundtrack.
Good soundtrack.
It
good
is
soundtrack.
Very electronic. It's kind of
big
disco-ish.
It gives me Stranger Things vibes.
Yeah. The beauty of that movie too, and I went back and I saw it again that night. And it just is really, really, it's funny, it's warm. These are, the kids that are in this actually do their own singing and their own dancing and kind of stuff. And then they turn around and Irene Cara, she's the one that did the song Fame, which was like a #1 song. I'm sure if we played it right now, you would know it. She recently passed away, but this was her star kicker. This was the one that sort of brought her. She thought she was going to be the next Whitney Houston, and she really is a very talented young woman. But then they came out and they did a TV series of it. But it's a great, from a standpoint, if you're in, I went to school, I was into, now you look at me and you think, okay, I'm obviously a jock, okay, and played, lettered in every sport that existed, but there was a part of me that was into theater and music and being in musicals kind of thing.
Okay, number 5. Now, this is another movie that I could say I avoided originally seeing it and then saw it years later and absolutely fell in love with it, and it's 21 Jump Street, the new version, I guess the remake of the TV show. But man, again, I think there's quite a few movies on the list that I didn't see originally for whatever reason. I thought it was gonna be stupid, and I think there's no pressure when you watch those movies, so they end up being very enjoyable.
It's a throwaway, yeah.
Yeah. So that was very much the case with this, and now I watch it quite regularly. It's a funny movie. I think that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum have a good rapport with one another, especially at this point in their film careers. They're still very, very new as leading men, but very well written, very funny, and definitely I think the farther we get away from it, the more fondly it'll be to look fun. It'll be easy to look at it fondly, and as we get farther away from it. But yeah, I think it's also good too because it's an indication that kids in high school are different now than when I was in school, because it sort of plays on that. These guys would have been my age, and now they are trying to pretend to be high school students again, and that the jocks are now not the popular kids anymore, but it's the nerds and stuff that are the popular kids. And I just thought that was just different, and I don't know, I think it just made for an interesting story. Well written and well set up, and a good sequel from it as well.
It was more of a comedy than the TV show was more of an
TV
action.
was more of like a realistic approach to it.
Yeah. Well, good.
And both Johnny Depp and the guy that are in it are actually in the movie too.
My number 5, Animal House.
I didn't even think of it. I don't know. Yeah, should have been on the list.
It is, here's the thing, and I'm going to preach a little bit here.
Oh, really?
I think that the best years of a life are often the college years. And what Animal House does is depicts what life was like in college during a time period of the 50s, and where you had sororities and fraternities. So you have the backdrop of 1950s rock and roll culture, 1950s with the car culture that I mentioned, and this coming of age and alcohol and drugs. And obviously it was a breakout performance for John Belushi. And what is absolutely, I think we've lost in our world is, as college has become more of an online thing, I know young people that have gotten their degrees that never had the experience of living in a dorm. And I think losing out on that, you're lesser of a person. I think we've lost, because if now all college is seen on a screen, then you really lose the community part of college, and spending times together and in their dorms and in the weekends and hanging out and holidays and that kind of stuff, and bringing a buddy home for Christmas or Thanksgiving, that kind of stuff. And Animal House is just really that culture at its finest. And it's a really good, funny, it's absurdist kind of thing. Is obviously it was put out by National Lampoon, which was very surreal in their humor, but a funny movie, a classic, one of the best comedies of all time. But it really shows this backdrop of what it's like to be. And I was never in a fraternity kind of thing.
Yeah, I was never in a fraternity. I did Rush freshman year because my roommate was a big fraternity guy. Just, I guess, following kind of what he did, but. It is, and I think it's one of those movies that I think is a trendy movie for people to like, kind of like Boondock Saints, where I don't know that people say they like it, actually enjoy it as much as like I do, but I think that's a very, very funny movie. And I've said before, Blazing Saddles and Dumb and Dumber are probably the two funniest movies. I could see you making a case for Animal House being a top 5. Maybe it's not quite the next, but I think it's an ensemble piece. It's flipping hysterical. John Belushi, I'm a zit. Get it?
Yep. Tim Matheson. It has Kevin Bacon in it.
Oh yeah. Kevin Bacon. There's the other guy that's one of the mean dudes in it.
Flounder was in that. I mean.
Oh boy, isn't this great?
Yeah.
I use that.
It was an event movie. It was one of these that everybody was going to go see that.
And what's the guy that plays the lead in it? The skinnier guy, not Flounder, the other guy.
Tom Hulce. Who was in Amadeus. He
kind of fell off the face of the earth after that. What happened with him? Do you know, or did you just?
I mean, he did some stuff. He did something with Ray Liotta, which was a really good film, kind of.
He's just not something I've seen a whole lot of, and I know Amadeus is, one of my favorite movies of all time, and Animal House, and he's so, I don't know, he pops out at you.
Yeah.
He's just a different guy, so it's just curious.
Yeah, there was a whole series of comedies during that time period, because then you had Stripes that I think came out, with Belushi, and so it was really is like this connection to Saturday Night Live and how people were coming out of that and doing the writing and the directing. But good movie. If you, I mean, I would encourage you, if you at all possible, and if you're able to do it and able to afford it, and your family can afford it, try to actually go away for school and live in a dorm.
You don't have to necessarily go away. You can live in a dorm and still be near.
Well,
I tell my kids that too.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about yourself, and it's also an awesome time too, because it's so different. High school kids can be kind of cliquey and very mean. And I remember when my freshman year of college, USC, first day there, everybody is it's just different. Everybody was willing and open and wanted to be friends and meeting new people. It was almost surreal to the point where it was just crazy. And I think kids need to see that. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
When you go away to college and all of a sudden you're like expecting it to be more cliquey, and you realize no, it's not. It's the opposite.
Yep.
So you should. Not everybody gets the opportunity to do it though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
Numero 4. The Faculty. Bam.
Wow.
Bam, thank you, ma'am. Welcome to Earth. I picked one of your movies, didn't I?
Good choice, man.
I picked one of your movies, didn't I? I knew it. But what a good movie. Playing on the stereotypes is why it's a little higher on my list than some of the others, because it leans into the stereotypes on purpose. A great snapshot of movies. And I don't know if you remember where we saw that movie at. Do you?
In Atlanta.
In the Omni Hotel in Atlanta during the Super Bowl, where Atlanta was playing Denver in the Super Bowl. So it was just a little interesting tidbit. Great movie, great cast, well written. Harry Knowles, Jon Stewart, a couple of the little background guys. The Terminator 2 guy is the head football coach, is the most meta, on the nose casting choice of all time, and I'm there for it. If you consider yourself in any way, shape, or form a movie buff, a horror movie buff, and you've not seen the movie The Faculty, then you need to pause this right now. Well, let me finish speaking, and then you can pause it, and go and watch it.
Robert Rodriguez.
Is that who directed it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, ain't that something?
Now, I expect you to edit that out, because I've said some stupid stuff on this podcast that just simply wasn't true. So check that, but I'm pretty certain that he directed it. Yes.
Okay, once you speak it, it's in my domain, sir.
Yeah, but it's good. I totally agree with you. That is a movie that
My name's Mary Beth Riggins.
There's so many horror films that are out there that it's just so easy to get just lost, and it's a needle in a haystack. Let me tell you something. This is a gold needle in a haystack.
A good ending.
Yeah.
It doesn't lean too heavily into a lot of the stereotypes of movies, while also being super stereotypical. So you don't have the nude scenes in the middle of the movie where the guys, and the girl are sleeping together. You don't. Yeah, now the alien, it's a girl at the end, spoiler alert, I'm not gonna say what happens, but when they shift into this monster thing and shift back, yeah, they're not wearing clothes anymore, but they don't lean into that at all. It's truly a horror movie in all the right ways. And I especially like the ending scene. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to, if you've never seen it though,
yeah,
it's definitely.
I love it. It's a perfect movie. Piper Laurie is in that. I don't know if you remember, she was in she was the mother in Carrie, in the original Carrie film. kind of stuff.
I
She was
cannot
one of the, you know.
Who is she in this?
She's one of the teachers that,
Okay,
that are
okay,
there, and
okay.
it's a wonderful sort of depiction of school. It's very much in the same philosophy of John Carpenter's The Thing, or the Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of stuff, because you just don't know, who are these teachers? Are they really teachers, or are they something else going on kind of stuff?
Oh,
Good
yeah, I like
stuff.
the ambiguity of it too, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
Good choice, man. Yeah.
I know.
My number 4 is Christmas Story.
Okay. Okay.
Well, you know Christmas Story.
Yeah.
It is.
I would have figured this would have been on the list long time, or this would eventually be on someone's list, but it would be for movies to never watch again.
Well, you can't escape it because it's on Christmas and
Yep.
they run it 24 hours
Yep.
straight. Why the affinity for me is it is very much. Now I know that this was the 40s, but for me it was more like growing up in the 50s in elementary school. But it has the same exact kind of vibes: the clothing, the school classroom kind of stuff. It reminds me of elementary school, and that, you know, I think sometimes a lot of back-to-school movies show school culture, and a lot of it's the bullying part that goes on, or it's the sort of coming of age and trying to figure out who we are. This is just very simple. You have your friends, and yeah, there are bullies in it, but it just was sweet. And it just kind of reminds me when I watch it, that, you know, that feels to me like what it was like to be in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. It's a good movie. It just, again, I think it's not as, yeah, it's just been overexposed. So it's not something that people enjoy or admire as much anymore. It's more like you said, it's more like a burden on people. Like, not again, why is this? And so unfortunately it is what it is, but it is a good movie. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth a shot.
Yeah,
for sure. Number 3, Donnie Darko. Bam. Wapow. Been waiting for a time to put this on a list, and it's almost been on quite a few of these. I haven't seen it in a long time. I need to watch it again. I did that on purpose because I'd seen it so much that it just kind of lost some of its luster. But one of my favorite movies of all time, Jake Gyllenhaal's masterpiece, his magnum opus. As an actor, was his first major role, but it's a little bit of a different look at school. I think it's supposed to take place in the 90s, I believe. A little Christian private school, crazy thriller, got almost some horror elements to it, sci-fi, but just different movie. I'm not sure even what your opinion of the movie is, to be honest.
I liked it. I saw it. You know, it's one of those movies that you have to see it more than once. How does it relate to Back to School?
Well, it just revolves around the school a lot. The kids, the relationship with Drew Barrymore's teacher, and the relationship with him and his science teacher. It deals a lot with school. They bring in Patrick Swayze is some sort of like speaker or something. He comes in and he turns out to be a giant child pornography guy. There's the 2 bullies or whatever, and then the girl, the love interest. But it really just, like, the backdrop is the school for a lot of the film.
It kind of reminds me in the same way of October Sky, you know, where it's, I don't know if you remember that film at all.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's in the background. Yes, it's about a teacher trying to nurture and encourage a kid in science and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think of it being a school movie. I'm kind of like, but that's a good choice, and it makes me want to go back and watch it again. And you know, Patrick Swayze, that, you know, like that was his last film, kind of.
Was it?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
That is true. Once he got his health issues, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's good. That's a good choice.
I know.
Okay. My number 3 is Faculty, which, you know, and I don't know if anything else to say about it other than it really is kind of a nice, it's a nice horror film from the standpoint, because it really is. Would it be a spoiler if I say that it's really about, like, it's more of like a space alien?
Yeah, it's a creature feature.
Yeah, creature
But
feature.
they play it like a horror movie. It's still a horror movie for sure.
Great direction, great ensemble cast. I'm there for it, and it's one of those things you can watch it over and over and over again. So
I like it too because it's, again, I really find myself drawn to that era of movies because, yeah, they tend to have a lot of like soundtracks in the movies then, but this is a good movie in that, yeah, it has some rock songs in it from the time period, but it also has scores to it as well. So it's a good balance, and I think those are always make for an interesting soundtrack backdrop.
I think it's got Alice Cooper's "Schools Out."
Yeah.
is
Yep.
in it.
It's got 18, but it's with it's not Alice Cooper's version of 18. It's the Creed singer guy's version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And I always like the opening credits too, when they like the name of them pops up on screen. I always like that too. Yep.
Good.
So that was your number.
That was my number 3.
All right, number 2. And then this one struggled with this one. Could have been number 1. And it is Superbad. One of my favorite opening credit scenes is them just dancing over the colored screens. But what a good movie. Jonah Hill, Michael Cera, not your jock leading guys. They're very, Laurel and Hardy. One's a twig, one's a big fat guy. But what a great written movie, Bill Hader, and it's Judd Apatow written and directed, but Bill Hader, what's his face? Seth Rogen is in it. Bunch of the other people from the movie Freaks and Geeks are in it as well. But just a good movie. And Mick Lovin will forever be a part of the zeitgeist of my high school years. And I'm not sure what your opinion of this film is either. I don't know if I've ever talked to you about it, so I'm interested to see what you think about it.
It does capture that whole, it's the quest for the Holy Grail in high school, the quest for a ID that will allow you to be able to access the world of alcohol. And I'm not here to glorify that at all, because I do think that's, the adult in me says, no, I'm a whole lot smarter now than I was when I was young and stupid, kind of stuff.
I think I totally agree with everything you just said, but I also, you know that kids are going to do things that they shouldn't because they're kids, and I don't think that the movie celebrates that necessarily. I just think it's just a reality of young people, unfortunately. And I agree, I'm not a drinker either. But still, just a funny movie, well-made movie. And the scene where he talks about why he doesn't like the little girl, it's because she found him drawings with his penis drawings. That scene right there might be one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen. And it's the flashback scenes with the little kid that they got to be the actor. I don't know, it's just hysterical to me.
Well, you asked me what I think about it, because we've never really talked about it. I saw it one time. So that
tells you that you loved it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was just the time period that I saw it. It is I have this thing with Seth Rogen, and I like Judd Apatow. I mean, I love Freaks and Geeks, but I don't know that I'm a fan of Joe Rogan.
Seth Rogen?
Seth Rogen, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Joe Rogan's the boss too.
Yeah, don't get me started. So.
Yeah, it's really good. And Freaks and Geeks, by the way, is on Prime right now. Streamable on Prime for free.
Yeah, Heather and I watched them all. So.
Yeah, there's a lot more episodes than I remember there being. I thought there was only like 6 or 8, but there's 15 or 18 of them. It's a good show. If you've never seen it, Freaks and Geeks is Judd Apatow, 40-year-old virgin, and forgetting Sarah Marshall and knocked up that guy. All those actors, James Franco and Jason Segel and Seth Rogen and all those kids, that's where it started. That was his first major product, was Freaks and Geeks, which was a TV show about high school in the 80s. And it's absolutely really, really, really well done.
Yep, I agree. My number 2, Grosse Point Blank.
It's a good one.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, and this might be one of the ones that folks, I never heard of this. It is about, it's John Cusack, it's like he's got 2 films that you watch back to back, and it's High Fidelity and Grosse Point Blank. Grosse Point Blank, he is a hired killer, an assassin, who goes back home for his high school reunion, right? And that sort of the comedy setup of all of that is just really kind of wonderful and brilliant. What's interesting about it is that I think sometimes when you go to high school, when you mentioned it earlier, where it's like you've got these different segmented cliques, and you've got the jocks and the kids that are smart, and then the folks that are really attractive or talented, that kind of stuff. When you go back for your reunion, the world has changed. And the jocks maybe aren't all that now, and the person that was sort of not all that popular now owns a multi-million-dollar corporation and has his own
life hits everybody differently.
It is, and this movie sort of displays, sort of shows that. It's like when you go back and revisit, and the beauty of this is everybody that asks him what do you do, he says, oh, I'm a hired killer, kind of thing.
They don't believe him.
They don't believe him, kind of stuff, and he goes back and sort of explores a relationship that he had with his girlfriend, and it really is very clever, very well, a lot of twists and turns in it. But it's a nice sort of examination of that world. A better film, I think, than Francis Ford Coppola did. The one with a reunion with oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of it. Whatever Happened to Peggy Sue, or you don't even know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, not that. Only that one.
Yep, that was. I mean, it's Coppola, man. Yeah, but it's got the reunion and kind of, but I think Grosse Point Blank is a much better.
Yeah, it's a good movie. And that was a time period where I would allow that John Cusack has never made a bad movie. Well, that ain't the case no more, my friend.
Yep. Okay.
Number 1, are you ready? Y'all ready for this? Okay. All right, number 1, Girl Next Door. No? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
You bought that for me. I don't think I would have watched it without it, but that's my favorite, like, teen high school movie. It's the one that I think has the most heart and soul to it. And it deals with a topic that I think is such a like teenage boy topic, which is porn, but from a different aspect. So those of you who haven't seen it, it's about a young man, Emil Hirsch. It's his like going out party is his first main role. Paul Dano is in this before he became the legend that he is, and he brings a lot to it. Alicia Cuthbert, guy from Deadwood. What's his name?
The guy that is in John Wick?
No. The guy from Deadwood, he's also in Scream 2, Justified.
Oh, Timothy Olyphant.
Timothy Olyphant plays the villain in it. Great stuff, but it's about this guy who, he's kind of a nerd, and he's going to be the best valedictorian of his class, and next door moves a former porn star who he falls in love with, as she's reformed her life, and, it's sort of this battle in her. Is she good enough to, be outside of that career? And but it's just a really hysterical movie. It's a movie that at the end makes you feel good. And Emil Hirsch and the scenes with his friends are hysterical. It's just it's a great movie from top to bottom.
I never even thought of that, but it is. I do. I like it. It's very
good twist at the end, if you can call it that.
Yep. Kind of thing. That's a.
I always like the scenes too where he's like losing his mind a little bit, and so his mom will be on the couch with the girl showing her baby pictures, and then all of a sudden she'll just like break out into this moaning session, and he starts freaking out like, oh my God, what's happening? You realize he's just losing his mind a little bit. It's just a funny movie.
Awesome. That's a great choice, and actually it's probably of all the movies that you have on there, it's probably the.
It's a movie, if you've not seen it, it's good stuff. It's a funny movie.
I'm surprised that you didn't. I really thought that you would go for Breakfast Club.
You thought wrong. Breakfast Club has been on a movie list of mine before already, so that's why that's not on there. But I also, movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Dazed and Confused. Those are the two that originally pop in your head. Those are the first two you think of. They didn't end up on my final list, but those are other two good ones too.
Yep, they really are. Both of those, especially. I mean, I'm more of a fan of Breakfast Club.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best that probably would have been number one had it not been on my list before.
We've talked about it before, yeah. For the same reason, I kind of get going back and forth, having it not my number one. But in the end, what I went for number one is Risky Business.
Okay, yeah. I like that one. I thought about that one too. It was on my list, just didn't make it this far.
It is, we've talked about Tom Cruise kind of thing. This is, if you look at all of my films, you have elementary school that's in there, you've got going back after you've graduated, you've got college years. I don't have a whole lot in mind that's in terms of like the middle school years. The fame would be more the high school years. Risky Business is high school, and that pressure of wanting to go to college and wanting to get into good college and trying to figure out what it is you want to do with your life. And it's just a wonderful sort of snapshot of that. It is very likable. Tom Cruise is very likable in that, and Rebecca De Mornay she steals the film, and then you got Booger is in that. I can't remember even Booger was the character that played it in what is the
Nerds?
The Nerds.
Okay.
But he is in that, and then Guido the Killer Pimp kind of thing. Just a great sort of film that sort of depicts that period of time, especially if, there's some people like when it's time to go to college, you got one choice, that's whatever the college is in your town. But there are people out there that it's like you're struggling to try to get into the best school and you're applying to a lot of places. And this depicts that in a very, very humorous way of where he decides he wants to go into business and runs a brothel. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's one movie that I think that while there's some notable scenes from it, it's not the first people think about when they think about Tom Cruise. But yeah, I thought about it. It's a good movie.
Tangerine Dream, if you're familiar with the composers, and I guess I would call it more ambient music, but there's a scene on this that is kind of that you always show of Risky Business, where he's on the train with Rebecca, and they obviously they get intimate, and the soundtrack on that is Tangerine Dream, and it really is a perfect scene, and how the music is synchronized with the rhythm of the train and the electric flashes of the train as it's going, just really, I remember seeing that in the theater and thinking, wow, that is really just good. Made me a fan of Tangerine Dream. So I'm glad I don't have to go back to school. And I remember when I finally finished and I knew that it was over and done with. And that doesn't mean that I still don't like learning, because I love learning. I love reading and doing things. But I don't miss the grind of whether it's elementary or graduate school or postgraduate or whatever. And
right.
I don't know about you, but you're right in the thick of that.
Yeah, but I'm on the good stuff. I'm on the good side.
Yeah.
Handing out the word, not giving it in.
Yeah. We want you to be on our show, people. We do. And sincerely, I'm going to put up on the screen the address for you to send us, write down your contact information, and send us your ideas for a show. We would prefer that it's this multi-generational thing. So get your kid, your son, your daughter, your brother, your mom, your dad, whatever. We don't discriminate. And if you will take that information and the idea that you have for a show, and if not, we can come up with the idea for you, affix that to the top of a Toro K1000 riding mower. Because this is the time of the year where we get our best ideas actually when we're doing chores.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yes.
Mowing for the homeless.
The homeless don't have anything to mow.
Not when I'm doing all the mowing, they sure don't.
Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you subscribe, tell your friends. What are the other things they're doing? Like us, love us, kind of stuff.
Want some more of us?
I try so hard, I can't rise above it. Don't know what it is about that little gal's loving, but I like it, I love it, I want some more of it.
Yeah. See you next week. Every Thursday we drop a new episode. If not, it's totally free.
A steaming episode.
A steaming episode. See you at the movies.